Hi, I'm Emily from Shenandoah Wellness, and today I'm going to show you how I make my homemade yogurt. Yogurt is another one of the fermented foods that I really like, my family really loves. Yogurt is a thermophilic culture, which is different than kefir or the fermented vegetables. Thermophilic meaning that it requires warmth in order to culture properly. The bacteria in yogurt is what actually um, needs that warmth to be kept around 100 to 110 degrees during the culturing process. The first step is you just get a pan. I make a gallon of yogurt at a time. I do 4 quarts, but you can adapt this for your needs. You could do a quart, a couple quarts. You could just do a pint if you'd like. And you'll just see whatever amount of milk you want to make. Go ahead and start heating that up. And when it comes time to add the culture, you'll be able to figure out how much you should add depending on the size jar or the quantity that you chose. So I just have half-gallon jars. And with yogurt, you're heating the milk over medium-low, and you need to heat it to 180 degrees. It can be tempting to speed the process up, and I have at times done so, but it does produce a thicker, creamier yogurt if you heat the milk slowly. Don't worry though if you're heating it up and you totally forget about it, and it does go beyond 180 degrees and actually start bubbling. I have done that as well, and it still turns out fine. Just like other ferments, you just, there is a bit of flexibility. So I'm just going to put it on medium low, and then as it's heating up, you just want to stir it every so often and check the temperature. All right, so the milk that we've been heating up is almost at 180 degrees, so I'm going to give it just a couple more minutes. Depending on the amount of milk you're using, it's going to take a while potentially for the milk to heat up, unless you're using, the smaller the amount, the quicker it's going to heat up to 180 degrees. So one thing you want to do right when your milk is about at 180 degrees, we are going to put the yogurt culture that we've saved from a previous batch into the jars. So as far as getting a culture, you have several different options. One of the easiest options, if you know someone who currently makes yogurt, just ask them to give you a tablespoon of starter yogurt. But with all the choices online, you can definitely order an assortment of, you can choose all different types of heirloom yogurt starters. You really do want to look for an heirloom starter. That's something that has been passed down. It's been used batch after batch, and typically they come from different areas of the world. And you can pick a yogurt that maybe has a little creamier consistency. Maybe you like a yogurt that's really tangy or sour, or maybe you like a milder sweet yogurt. So you can definitely look for a starter that has the taste profile that you're looking for. And then the last way to start yogurt, and it's easy as well, but it's not completely ideal, and that is to buy some yogurt at the grocery store. So first off, you need to look for plain, unsweetened yogurt. I tend to like whole milk yogurt, but you want to make sure that on the carton it says that it has live active cultures. Some of the grocery store yogurt, after they add cultures and make the yogurt, at the very end of the process, they pasteurize it so that it doesn't actually contain any of those live cultures. If you are using grocery store yogurt, just make sure it's plain, unsweetened, and says that it contains the live cultures. And you can use it just a lot of times for some reason the commercial cultures that they use for yogurt, they don't quite have the staying power that an heirloom yogurt starter is going to have. And I've done it before, and then you might notice after a year or two your yogurt is just getting a little thinner or just not turning out as well as it used to, in which case you could just start again with another starter. But you've got your milk and it's reached the 180 degrees. So I'm going to put my yogurt starter in each jar. I'm doing 4 quart jars, and it's good to scoop out your starter from a jar that hasn't been dipped into before, just to keep it as pure and undisturbed by other bacteria as possible. So per quart, you're going to put 1 tablespoon of starter. And you can adjust that depending on the size jar that you're going with. A lot of the yogurt recipes that I've seen call for a lot more starter per jar. Some of them even, they might recommend a 1/4 cup of starter per quart. And when I found this little trick out, this completely changed my yogurt. And a lot of people do struggle when they're making yogurt at home. They struggle with it being too thin. And I've known people who actually add milk powder and do all sorts of things to try to make it thicker. But basically, more is not better. So you want less of your starter. And I've read several reasons for this. One is that during the culturing process, the bacillus bacteria actually weaken the milk proteins, and that can create a thinner yogurt. So by using as little starter as possible, you just want to use the bare minimum that you need to colonize the milk, to eat the lactose, the milk sugars, and you'll end up with a thicker product. I also like to kind of think of it as when you use less starter, they're eating the lactose, the milk sugar, and you're allowing, it's not overcrowded. It's a better ratio of the beneficial bacteria and the lactose available, or the food available in the milk. So we've added our starter to the jars, and we do that just so it can come to room temperature. When we add the warm milk that's been cooled, we're not going to add it at this point. We don't want the starter to be cold because we are trying to keep the temperature of the yogurt while it incubates in about 110 degree range. So we're going to just turn this off, and you'll notice that when the milk gets to 180 degrees, it's not boiling, it's lightly steaming, and there are just some small frothy bubbles on top. And our next step is just to let it cool to 110 degrees. So the milk has now cooled to 110 degrees, so we can proceed with the next step in making yogurt. We have our quart jars with 1 tablespoon of starter in them, and I just begin to fill the jars with the warm milk. And I also wanted to mention while I'm doing this, we talked earlier about how the bacteria in yogurt is thermophilic, meaning that it requires warmth, but it just requires about, around 100, maybe 100 to 110 degrees. And we heated the milk to 180, and that was simply to make sure that there would be no competition for the bacteria that we were introducing. It's possible, you know, I've heard of people making yogurt without heating it, but you're not going to get as consistent results. And your culture, probably, you know, the colony of organisms that make it up are going to change slightly over time. As you're filling them up, you also, before you put the lids on, we want to just stir it gently to make sure the culture is all mixed in. And then I'm going to show you my way that I keep the yogurt warm while it's culturing, because we have it at a nice, you know, warm temperature, about 110 degrees, and we need for it to stay there. And many people, they have different methods. You can buy little yogurt machines that do it. You can use an Instant Pot. Some people use their oven with their warming light, but I go very low tech on this. After you've mixed all your yogurt, we're going to put the lids on. Just to, you know, come on pretty good. And I also had heated up some water. And so I have an extra jar here that is just going to have hot water in it. And what I do is I allow my yogurt to incubate in an insulated cooler. And I fill the cooler with towels, with bath towels, and I place my jars of yogurt. But I also have a bottle of hot water just to make sure that the yogurt stays at a warm temperature. But I do kind of wrap the towel around and shield the yogurt from that bottle of hot water. I don't want it to touch it directly, or it might be too hot for the bacteria. So once I put my jars in, the extra airspace in the cooler, I just fill in with towels, and then I close it up. I allow my yogurt to sit 24 hours. Yogurt, while it's incubating, doesn't like to be jostled. That can also make it turn out thinner. You can remove it and eat it after 12 hours. I personally have never done it just because I do a 24-hour ferment. The longer you ferment the yogurt, it gets a little more sour, but it also, well, because it's more sour, the culture eats more of the lactose, so it becomes a better food for people who might be sensitive to lactose. I'm just going to set this aside, and this is just kind of a weekly ritual that I do, or depending on how much yogurt we go through, sometimes more than once a week. But this is a great food to just always a staple to have in your house. It's nutrient dense and full of probiotics. So I hope you give it a try. Leave a comment if you have any suggestions for future videos. Thanks for watching.